Good morning, everybody. Sean Hewitt here from the Trusted Business Community Association. And today I am joined by one of our longest serving members of the association, Bethan Mary Thompson, the warrior princess, I call her. She's a mental health warrior, and she has been in the past been doing public speaking around health and dementia. She's a dementia champion and also she's transitioned from caring from her late mum who had dementia and cancer as well. And she's commenced in volunteering for the mental health charity. She's worked in co-production. The local health board services have used her services and her understanding of what she brings, and she's also chaired partnership boards. This lady really knows her stuff. Welcome, Bethan. Lovely to have you with us today.
Good morning, bore da to everybody. I'm here in South Wales, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you, Sean, today and be part of this wonderful association, which I've been part of for some time. I'm so happy to be here today.
Thank you very much, Bethan, and it's lovely to have you, not just here today, but it's lovely to have you around us at the association. So, Bethan, people listening into this YouTube interview, as it's becoming quite a big following here at the big interview, please tell us a little bit about your backstory. So, talk to us about, I mentioned obviously about your late mum and how things have transitioned, and you've become that support mechanism to in the mental health arena, as well as obviously dementia, and you chair partnerships and everything. So give us a little bit of a backstory as to how you got into it and bring us up to the point where we are today. Over to you.
First of all, I've always been interested in mental health, and I've always done some sort of volunteering. So I think mental health has always been important because my mum was an oncology nurse and that. So she always taught us, to look after ourselves. And I was working part-time. I was working full-time, then I went part-time because I was caregiving. And then eventually it became full-time when mum first had cancer. And then eventually it did take 24/7. And yes, my mum had the last fall, and I was arrested, and I went all through those challenges and the domestic violence for my head injury. And then, sadly, 6 months later, the cancer escalated, the dementia, and she had more delirium than dementia, sadly. And we went through all those challenges, and then we had a company called Night Butterfly. We were selling cards and all sorts. And then my mum said to me, let's keep the name and you carry on the work. And I decided to do exactly that. I went volunteering with the health boards and joined that was just before COVID. So I went on all these networking and Zooms without no phone and everything. And then I actually landed in the Trusted Business Virtual Coffee. And then I actually started growing my business, and that's been growing ever since.
Wow, what a lovely backstory. And you mentioned that obviously you had a head injury, and we won't go too much into that, obviously. But I will pick up on one point because I find you and I have spoke about this, but I'd love to obviously, if you wouldn't mind, just expressing a little bit more information to those listening into this YouTube. You mentioned you got arrested because mum had a fall. Just put when you first told me about this, my head was in my hands. I was like, no, surely not. So, can you just give us a little bit more about what that sort of made you feel, because you were there caring for you?
It's scary. It is the most scary thing ever. Yes, we phoned. I couldn't get her up off the floor because, as you know, when it's dead weight, and I'm not very tall. And the good thing is that I had journaled every fall my mum had, because we all bruise easily. Well, I bruise easily. So I've only got to knock my arm. I've got, bruises on my arm now because I only got to knock it on a table or something. And as we get older, people do have skinned hairs, and our skin gets very, very thin. And lots of people are now taking these collagen to make our skin better, as you know, and that's why they're, encouraging people as we get older. So, yeah, she fell and I was at the hospital and I was standing outside and they went back in, and because she was hurt, she said the daughter was hurt, but nobody was listening. And I was in a police cell and I was in a cell down in the main city for 24 hours. I did not have medication. I could hardly talk. And my mum was really upset because she was telling the doctor it was tea time and we were waiting hours for an ambulance and I hadn't taken my medication and I had a banging headache. And she was telling the doctor, can you give her some medication? But they were saying no, they were looking after her. And
so they presumed
yes, that when she said hurt, that they assumed, and they were giving her a yogurt. And as you know, when they have dementia, as the dementia progresses, their taste buds change, and obviously they're swallowing. So you have to be very careful what time of day that you feed your relatives. And towards the end, you're not allowed to give them food even at the end, which is quite difficult when you need to eat as well. So, and that's really hard on your mental things. And I still think about that I could eat and I couldn't give her, because otherwise it's forcing.
She was being fed by a tube of some description, was she? Or
no, you can't. You just have to have cotton wool buds and literally just give them water on cotton wool buds, and that's it.
So that's
really hard, even still, to think that you sitting there, you need to eat for your energy and keep that fuel going, and yet you cannot feed them. So you have to take yourself away from that, and then they're wondering why you're eating and why they're not, and that upsets them.
I remember my mum-in-law went through a very similar thing. She was in the hospital and all she could do was just have like the cotton wool buds and moisten her mouth, and it's so hard, so hard to see that. It really is. And because you just want them to be healthy, don't you? Want them to take better, but
I can still feel it now, thinking such.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you for explaining that, because when you first told me that and you said to me about that they actually blame you, I can understand to a degree that they've got to be they've got to show due diligence and how's this happened, but you brought her in, you were looking obviously to get her help,
but what people don't,
and they point the finger at you.
Sorry to interrupt. What people don't realize is it's in that 3 weeks that I'm not allowed to see her at all. She's in that hospital, and I thought about this. She's in that hospital. I still, to this day, have no idea what they did to her. No. Because there was no notes in that. And obviously she had this like little thing on her face, and it just grew. So I never know. You'll never know what happens in the hospital. So my golden nugget is obviously while I was interviewed the following day, is that I was able to remember every single bruise. So if you are caregiving at home, it is so important to journal things. And I know it's time consuming, but we've got technology now that we can record things on voice notes and everything. And I really stress that.
Yeah. No. Well, that brings us really nicely on to the next part of my question, which is, well, look, you've gone through the journey. Now you've now evolved. Your butterfly wings have widened and you're flying away. Tell us in which direction you've taken that experience now into your night butterfly mental health warrior.
Yes,
that you are. Tell us more about that.
I have taken the experience so that I can assist families and get them to understand that they can look after their relatives at home with the right equipment and the right things. I have an app on my phone, for example, for hydration, which is so important. And when I was like doing the manual things on the like folder in my kitchen, and I had to make sure that Mum had to drink every day. We all need to drink, no matter who. And like children, like, because children have, dementia as well, and chronic illnesses. So there's so much now technology and equipment that we can use at home, like foot spas. I bought a foot spa for myself, and I thought, oh, that is an investment for your family, because when you've got somebody that's quite stressed or agitated or feeling a bit low, that they can be like sat in a chair. COVID was a marvelous example, sat in a chair, listening to their earpods and music, and have that reduced time. And even people, corporates who are actually got teams that work at home, should be encouraging their corporate teams to take that time out and invest in saying, we've got like a budget of mental wellness. And I think that as we move forward now towards the end of the year, that's what I'm also talking to corporates about, putting in a budget for wellness for their teams, because they, on their phones all the time. And so helping families understand how they can look after people that are unwell. We're going into our winter, but there's people around the world with the climate change. And then obviously corporates, people who are actually sitting working at home and getting depressed. People have just lost people. I was on a bus yesterday with a lady sitting next to me. She's lonely. She's going into the city. At the moment, the weather's okay here in the UK to go out. But as the weather changes, she's going to be at home more and less away from people. She doesn't necessarily want to be on Zoom or things, they don't really. So, but there's ways that they can be involved in that and get training. There's training out there and so many different things now that I can, guide them.
You've hit a very hot topic of mine, and about taking time for yourself. And I'm a big advocate for that, because we are those in corporate, or whether you're working as a small business owner, you know this as well, just as much, Bethan. You're constantly sort of looking around your business. You're constantly on the go, and it's really vital to take that step back and take some time. And you're right, if people budgeted, especially the bigger corporates, obviously if they budget to make sure that the mental health of their staff who are working away from the office and working from home, which there is still a lot out there working remotely. Obviously, that's quite a popular thing for a lot of employees. Then, of course, having a budget there to support those home workers is a real big thing. And you hear me say on the coffee drop-in where you and I, we both frequent. I mean, I've got to be there because it's one of our meetings, but I know you're there every week as well. And you often hear me talking about people saying,
but even going outside, even going outside and having your coffee. And now as we come into the winter, I bought a stepper because I was talking to a physio yesterday, and you can buy them reasonable now if you look around. I know where I buy mine. I buy mine off the TV, and I tell people, go and have a look, and that, if you want one, here's the link, and or here's this sort of thing that you can get at home, and you can see, that people are like, Americans are very much into doing it all the time, and that, because even on meetings, people can actually use one of those when they're at meetings and that, or listening to a podcast. When they're listening to this, they can be, and that 20 minutes a day can make such a difference.
100%. It's all about keeping active, keeping the mind fog away, and not always being around the technology. Totally get that. Bethan, obviously the people listening into this big interview here on our YouTube channel at TTBCO are probably going to be going, hey, we'd like to find out a little bit more about Bethan. So where can people listening in find you on the socials, etc.? Tell us a little bit more about where
I'm on your directory, The Trusted Business. So I have a landing page there so they can go out and find out more about me. I'm on YouTube because I also have my podcast on there as well. And that's currently being updated a little bit. And I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn. I have an Instagram, which is an old one, but it's still out there and there's quite a bit of stuff on there, and Twitter. And I do have quite a lot on Twitter as well, to be fair.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, I mean, obviously, you know, Twitter formerly, X now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Formerly
it's
known
X
as
now,
Twitter.
but I still call it Twitter.
Well, everyone still calls it Twitter.
Because I think that, people, I checked it the other day, and to be honest, people still call it Twitter. People find it difficult to call X. And, a lot of people will look at the different things. I'm not so much into Instagram. Instagram is out there, but I haven't used that for some time. But my main platform now is LinkedIn and Facebook. People want to know more, and those are where for me, for the time being, is where
that's where they can find you.
Platforms are.
Bethan, it's been an absolute pleasure having a conversation with you. I've been so looking forward to this one this morning. It's been a while. We've been trying to arrange this for a little while, but we've finally got there. Part 1 has now been complete. I'm sure you'll be back for part 2 a little bit further down the line, where we can talk a little bit more about something else or how things have gone since this interview. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the big interview. And for those listening in, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like this video, like and subscribe on our channel, and you'll not only keep up to date with what Bethan's doing, but you'll be able to listen to all the other interviews where we've had the big interview with our members of the Trusted Business Community Association. Thanks, Bethan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sean, today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love being part of the organisation. I love the people being in there, and I love the support that you've given to me and others.
Thank you so much for those kind words. Till next time, everyone. Take care. Next big interview will be coming soon.